It is Monday night, the 16th of October. The weather has been very chancy for the last 5 or 6 days. I can see Jupiter ascending maybe 20, 30 degrees above the horizon to the east. I've seen plenty of visible clouds in the sky. The moon is not an issue right now. It's the second day after an annular eclipse, of which I saw about 60% of right here in John Day, Grant County area. We're going to be going through the 7700 to 7749 series tonight with any luck. And that's because the clouds or sky conditions are pretty much going to determine outcomes, as the sky always does. What you're looking at is, and it's near the very center of the screen, it'll probably come and go a little bit, waxing and waning with thin cloud passages, and at times even potentially disappear this evening. So I don't have a lot of confidence that we're going to be finishing with the 7700 to 7749 series, but let's give it a shot. NGC7700 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 14.5, kind of edgy on 2 by 0.4 arc minutes. So on a good night, we would definitely see that it was an edge-on galaxy, since the rest of the galaxy would probably be somewhere around magnitude 16. It is 233 million light years, a spiral with a lowercase a, and it is minus 3 degrees in declination, and we are now 23 hours, 34 minutes, and 30 seconds into right ascension. NGC7701 was right in the same field. Another galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 14, 1.2 by 0.8 arc minutes, a spiral with a lowercase b, roughly the same distance, so probably part of the same group, 237 million light years. It's at minus almost 3 degrees, and this one's probably somewhere about the size of our own Milky Way galaxy, about 100,000 light years across. And by the way, I learned in some of my research that our galaxy, though it may be small, may actually be quite a heavyweight. It may be more massive than Messier 31, which is 152,000 light years across. Our own galaxy is 100,000 light years across. So it will be a bit of a gravitational tussle as these two galaxies of the local group, 31 and Milky Way, begin their spiral dance together over the next 2 to 3 billion years. GC7703 is further north. It's a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.4, 2.2 by 0.5 arc minutes. So once again, we should get a nice sense of edgy-onness. It is a lenticular spiral of class O, 182 million light years distant, which puts it at about 120,000 light years across, and it's at plus 16 degrees declination. Dropping down once again into Pisces is NGC 7704 galaxy, magnitude 13.4, football shape 1.1 by 0.9 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 255 million light years distant. It's at plus almost 5 degrees, and its diameter is probably somewhere around that of our own Milky Way. NGC 7705 is probably a neighboring galaxy to OT4. It's a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 15.4. Hopefully it'll turn up on the screen, because if it doesn't, I probably will abort on putting together this video of the 7700 series for publication on Golden Phoenix. It's at 0.6 by 0.5 arc minutes, a spiral with a bar, lenticular, 250 million light years distant. It's probably somewhere around 60 to 70,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 5 degrees in declination. NGC 7706 is another neighbor of the last two galaxies, 4 and 5. In Pisces, brighter, magnitude 13.2, 1.2 by 1 arc minute, lenticular spiral, 254 million light years distant. It's at plus almost 5 degrees in declination. NGC7707 is blocked by the roof tride. It's far too far north to be able to be imaged this evening. I would have to start earlier in the evening, and if I do remember, I will have a look at it maybe on the next occasion. NGC7709, a galaxy in Aquarius. Magnitude 13. Somewhat edge on, 2.3 by 0.6 arc minutes. Spiral with a bar, lenticular. 78 million light years distant, excuse me, minus almost 17 degrees, and at 78 million light years distant, it's probably about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter, but I am definitely seeing spiral extensions on this, so maybe this night will just play out as we hope. NGC7710 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 15. Oblate, 1.2 by 0.5 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral, 114 million light years distant, puts it at about 60,000 light years in diameter. It's at minus almost 3 degrees in declination. NGC7711, one of our brighter galaxies. For the evening in Pegasus, magnitude 12.1, 2.6 by 1.3 arc minutes, a perfect oblately presented spiral of the lenticular class, 184 million light years distant. It's at plus 15 degrees. Should give a good look. Here we have NGC 7712, another galaxy in Pegasus. Slightly fainter, magnitude 12.7 point, but fairly small, so this is pretty intense. 0.9 by 0.8 arc minutes, a spiral with some peculiarities, 138 million light years distant. It's at plus 23.5 degrees. This one's probably about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter, half the size of the Milky Way. I had to skip a couple of deep south galaxies in Sculptor, and now we're at NGC 7714, galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 12.5, 1.9 by 1.4 arc minutes, spiral with a bar, lowercase b, and some peculiarities, 121 million light years distant. It's at plus 2 degrees in declination. And at magnitude 12.5, we may be able to see some of those peculiarities if, in fact, the sky is as transparent as I hope, and not as cloudy as I suspect. NGC 7715 was just a tick away from 14. It's a galaxy in Pisces, of course, magnitude 14.2, fairly large, and edgy on, 2.7 by 0.4 arc minutes. It is an irregular galaxy, 120 million light years distant at plus 2 degrees. Let's hope we get some sense of its regularity on the screen, and it should be feasible if we haven't got high thin clouds diminishing the contrast and intensity of NGC 7715. NGC 7716 is another one of those 12th magnitude galaxies. And what's interesting about that is in my research I've learned that there's basically a tripling of the number of galaxies visible in the night sky in space by a factor of 3 for every magnitude. So beginning at magnitude 10, there's about 100 of those. Then going to magnitude 11, there's about 300 of those. And we're in magnitude 12 range. There's roughly 900 to 1,000 such galaxies visible through telescopes. And magnitude 12 galaxies, about 900 to 1,000, should be visible through any scope that can reach 6 inches down to about magnitude 13.5. So a 6-inch scope on a good night should be able to find, if you can stay up all night long and travel between the hemispheres, about 1,000 12th magnitude galaxies. And we've had to dip a bit further south to NGC 7717. It's a galaxy in Aquarius. Magnitude 13, pretty much face on, 1.4 by 1.2 arc minutes. Spiral with a bar, lenticular and a lowercase a. 154 million light years distant, puts it at about 80,000 light years in diameter. It's at minus 15 degrees in declination. It's quite visible on the screen. NGC 7718 is well placed in sky position. It's a galaxy in Pegasus. Magnitude 14.9 by 0.6 arc minutes, football-shaped spiral with peculiarities. It is 422 million light years distant, which places it a little at probably about 120,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus almost 26 degrees in declination. NGC7700 is deep south galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 15.9 by 0.7 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase ab, 423 million light years distant, also places it at about 125,000 light years in diameter. It's at minus 23 degrees, so we're not likely to get much of a look, especially if the clouds are beginning to roll in from the south, which I suspect. NGC7720 is a galaxy in Pegasus, 27 degrees north, so in good sky position, also brightish, magnitude 12.4, 1.6 by 1.3 arc minutes. It is an elliptical 406 million light years distant. It is larger than Messier 31, the great Andromeda galaxy, probably somewhere around 175 or 80,000 light years in diameter. NGC 7721, which I have no idea whether anything's on the screen, is a galaxy in Aquarius, minus 7 degrees in declination. Bright, magnitude 11.6, largest 3.1 by 1.2 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase c, a mere 91 million light years distant, but don't try to walk it. Oh, I do kind of see the galaxy there. It has got no sense of core. Wow. The light just spreads out evenly in most every direction, it would seem. Although it's 3.1 by, yeah, I can see it is elliptical in shape. So that's our look at NGC 7721, minus 6.5 degrees in declination, and giving a pretty good view now on the screen. NGC 7722, galaxy in Pegasus, brightish, magnitude 12.4, 2.1 by 1.8 arc minutes, spiral, so it's kind of semi-tilted, 182 million light years distant, and plus 16 degrees in declination, right there, pretty much as I can tell near the middle of the screen. NGC 7723 is an apparently largish galaxy in Aquarius, brightish, magnitude 11.2, 3.5 by 2.2 arc minutes, spiral with a bar and lowercase b, 84 million light years distant, puts it about the size of our own Milky Way. This one's at minus 13 degrees in declination. Oh, I just recentered the last galaxy in the field, and it's a place to start looking for subsequent galaxies. I've resynchronized them out. NGC 7724 is a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 13, 1.5 by 1 arc minute, spiral with a lowercase b, 85 million light years distant, and minus 12 degrees. Not a bad look for the lower sky position. NGC 7725 is another galaxy in Aquarius, fainter, magnitude 14.5, and smaller, 0.7 by 0.7 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral, 265 million light years distant, probably puts it about 60,000 light years in diameter. It's at minus 4.5 degrees in declination. Encroaching clouds overhead at NGC 7726, a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 14.2, 1.5 by 0.6 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral of class O, 338 million light years distant, plus 27 degrees in declination, means we're probably not going to get much of a look. I may not get any further looks for the evening. I will give it 10 or 15 minutes to clear up before I bail as we enter into the second half of the 7700 to 7749 series. And if I bail for the night, carpe noctem, I will pick it up again tomorrow night where we're leaving off. Here's actually quite a nice view of NGC 7727. Now, in stepping out of the observatory and looking around, the sky is very dark, except where there are very luminous clouds. We just happen to be looking through a more cloud-free area south of the ecliptic when we're looking at this 10th magnitude. NGC 7727 is magnitude 10.7, 4.7 by 4.1 arc minutes, spiral with a large bar and some peculiarities, and an A classification, 79 million light years distant at minus 12 degrees. So yeah, here is a pretty good look in a part of the sky that is less afflicted by cloud presence. So I'm going to push on a little bit and see how much further we can go, and maybe take a few occasional breaks when the clouds are passing in the region of the sky we are observing. NGC 7728 may or may not be on the screen. It's a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.1, 1 by 0.8 arc-minute elliptical, 424 million light years distant, puts it at about 140,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 27 degrees, and we just passed from 23 hour right on 40 minutes in right ascension. NGC 7729 is another galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.5, 1.8 by 0.6 arc minutes. So a suboblate presentation. Spiral with a bar, lowercase a, 238 million light years distant, puts it at about 120,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 30 degrees. There may be some minor blockage of the aperture given the angle of the scope. Okay, we're looking towards NGC 7730, a galaxy in Pisces or Aquarius. I'm not sure which, but there are high clouds that are visible to me, probably masking most of the view, although I do see the galaxy right about there. So I'm going to have to take another break from recording. Well, there's probably still some thin clouds there, but it's not as apparent to me. NGC 7730 is a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 14.8, 0.7 by 0.6 arc minute, spiral with peculiarities, 418 million light years distant, puts it at about the size of our own galaxy, maybe a little smaller, at minus 20.5 degrees in declination, and I do believe I see it on the screen. So we'll push on to the next galaxy and hope the clouds don't get in the way. NGC 7731 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 13.5, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minute, spiral with a bar, 121 million light years distant, almost 4 degrees above the ecliptic. We are getting a view, and you might ask, why am I bothered to take the risk of having a night wiped out? And the fact is, within the next 2 days or 2 nights, the moon is going to become a serious factor. I will have to knock off, and for some reason I'm pushing for trying to get through NGC 7840 before the moon becomes a factor. And that means we've got about another 100 studies to go through in the next 2 nights, if the weather permits. With nary a tick of the drive, NGC 7732, another galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 13.8. You should be able to distinguish it because it's the longer, narrower one, 2 by 0.6 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase z and a D designation, which usually means diffuse in my estimation. 131 million light years distant. It's also about 4 degrees above the celestial equator, and I am seeing images on the screen, which means hopefully we're not getting blocked by clouds. NGC 7735 is a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.6, 1.3 by 0.9 arc minute elliptical, 429 million light years distant, which means it's about as large as the Great Andromeda Galaxy. It's at plus 26 degrees. There could be some partial blockage of the scope aperture on this one. NGC 7736, another galaxy in Aquarius, Brightish, magnitude 12.9, but face on 1.6 by 1.5 arc minute. It's a spiral of the lenticular class, 200 million light years distant, puts it at about 120,000 light years across. It's at minus 19.5 degrees in declination, but it's quite present on the screen. NGC7737 is a galaxy, probably being partially blocked by the roof tri in Galaxy and Pegasus. It's at plus 27 degrees in declination. Just about everything is culminating right now, and it must be about 10:30 in the evening. Magnitude 13.8, 0.9 by 0.4 arc minutes, spiral, 339 million light years distant, puts it about the size of the Milky Way. It's at plus 27 degrees in declination. NGC 7738, another galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 14.4, 2 by 1.4 arc minutes, so its light's being spread out a bit. Spiral with a large with a bar and a lowercase b, 303 million light years distant. This baby is probably almost 200,000 light years in diameter. It's right very close to the celestial equator. Given its distance, it does have a red shift that's appreciable, probably somewhere around 0.02 shift in terms of bright emission or dark absorption lines in its spectra. Too far from NGC 7738, if you add one, is 7739. Galaxy in Pisces, may not be on the same screen, however. Magnitude 15.1, 1.1 by 0.9 arc minute elliptical, 302 million light years distant, puts it at about the size of the Milky Way. It's at pretty much right on the ecliptic. NGC 7740 is a galaxy in Pegasus, partially blocked, no doubt, by the roof tri. Faint, magnitude 15.6. It'll be tough to pick this one out. It's 0.8 by 0.5 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral, 347 million light years distant, puts it about the size of the Milky Way. It's at plus 27 degrees in declination. NGC 7741 is probably the finest galaxy of the evening. Unfortunately, it's being partially blocked by a roof tri. Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 11.3, 4.5 by 2.9 arc minute spiral with a bar, 39 million light years distant. That puts it at about maybe something around 60,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 26 degrees, and as I said, we are probably getting some partial blockage of aperture. But still, I do believe I am seeing it on the screen. Dare I cross my fingers and hope that we will finish the 7700-49 series this evening by dodging the clouds. This is NGC 7742, Galaxy in Pegasus. It's in good sky position vis-a-vis the roof. Magnitude 11.6, 1.8 by 1.7 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b. 73 million light years distant means it's probably somewhere around 50,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus almost 11 degrees in declination. And we are now approaching hour 23:45 in terms of right ascension. Here we've arrived at Galaxy NGC 7743. It's another galaxy in Pegasus, bright, magnitude 11.5, 2.8 by 2.4 arc minutes, not being blocked, and hopefully there is no absorption of its light by clouds. Spiral with a large bar. It's an O-class lenticular spiral with a lowercase a designation as well. 71 million light years distant, puts it at about 80,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus almost 10 degrees in declination, yet we have still not crossed 23:45 in right ascent. Partially blocked by roof tri at about 25 degrees north declination is NGC 7745, a galaxy in Pegasus, faint, magnitude 15.2, 0.7 by 0.7 arc minutes, simply classed as a spiral. But here's the interesting thing. It is 767 million light years distant, and it's at plus almost 26 degrees. So this baby is a ways out there. Hopefully we are getting some kind of look. NGC7746 is a galaxy in Pisces. Magnitude 13.1, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, class O. 307 million light years distant, puts it at about 130,000 light years in diameter. It is at minus almost 2 degrees in declination, and yes, we have crossed the 23-hour, 45-minute right ascension sky position. So we are heading east towards the 0 hour. Again, some serious blockage of the roof by the roof of the aperture. NGC7747 is a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.6, 1.5 by 0.5 arc minutes, so it's a suboblate, spiral with a bar, lowercase b, 347 million light years distant, means it's larger, probably slightly larger than the Great Andromeda Galaxy, maybe 170,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus 27 degrees in declination. I would have had to have gotten an earlier start with fewer delays if I were to get good looks at some of these far northern Pegasus galaxies. But that is the lay of the land. Okay, this is our one and only galaxy in Sculptor. There have been several others that I've had to skip over because they were deep south. This is NGC7749 galaxy in Sculptor, magnitude 12.8. 1.6 by 1.1 arc minutes, lenticular spiral O, 464 million light years distant, places it at probably about 225,000 light years in diameter. It's at minus 29.5 degrees. I do believe we are seeing it on the screen, although there are several galaxies in that location. Look for the brightest one at magnitude 12.8. And there is our last view of the night, and I think we do manage to put a period on the sentence of NGC 7700-7749. And with any luck, I'll be able to get out again tomorrow night or perhaps the next and at least get up to 78,000. Now, if I do manage to get out early enough and the sky is nice enough, I will probably do 2 sessions, but I will be required to charge up the battery in the handheld camera to make that possible. So it will take a bit of logistics and the help of a good dark night sky. We're going to call this Carpe Noctem and an Asta for our next occasion out. Hopefully it'll occur before the moon becomes a factor. Carpe Noctem.